How's it going, everybody? Thank you for joining us today. It's Carlos, your host of the Bling on the Blitz podcast, and I'm joined here like I am every week with my co-host Rios. How's it going, Rios?
Just sitting here waiting for the imminent danger.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's today is we're recording this on Sunday, July 7th, and if you're in the Houston area or anywhere during South Texas, you know there's a hurricane barrel coming, and man, it's crazy right now. So, if you're listening to this in your car or anything like that, please get to a safe place. If you don't need to be out, please don't be out, and please be safe, as safe as possible. But hey, tonight actually, we're going to be talking about our top uh, five receiving core going into the 2024 NFL season. And we'll do that right after our intro. Hit it. All right, so this is pretty simple actually. So all we're doing tonight, we're probably going to keep it short again because the storm is about to hit at any hour really. So before we lose any electricity, we're going to be recording this. All right, so we are. It's pretty simple, like I said. So what we're doing is we are choosing our. Of course, it may differ from yours. Our top five receiving core going into the 2024 NFL season. And the receiving core is not just wide receivers. This includes like a package of either the tight end group as well, and the running backs, and basically anybody that can catch the ball as a receiving core. So these are going to be our top five. Again, your top five may differ from ours. If it does, let us know in the comment section what your top five NFL receiving core for the 2024 season is. So, without any further ado, Rios, start off with your. We're going to start off from five and going to go all the way to one. So, Rios, who do you have at number five?
Well, at number five, I got the Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay.
So with their group of, they already have 2,000-yard receivers in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and they got one one of the better tight ends with name is slipping my mind right now. But yeah, so he's one of the better receiving tight ends, and adding Saquon Barkley to that mix and having one of the top offensive lines, like that opens up their offense a little bit because they didn't have a receiving threat out of the backfield last year, even with all the their stable running backs with DeAndre Swift and all them, like they weren't real receiving threats like on the same level as Saquon Barkley. So this should be a pretty fun team to watch. But yeah, it's really all going to come down to Jalen Hurts. It's the offense really just falls on him if he's able to improve on his passing from a year ago. This should be a pretty dangerous offense in the NFC East.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like you said, I think adding Saquon Barkley to that mix is definitely going to help them out. You got a running back there who can also catch the ball. Is there anybody?
That's his name, Dallas Goddard.
Dallas Goedert, yeah, there you go. Yeah, yeah. So, for you, Rios, did you by any chance did you battle that fifth place with any other team that you had in mind?
A little bit. I thought about putting the Bengals in my top. So, spoiler: the Bengals aren't in my top five. I thought about it just because they have a lot of question marks at the running back position. Because Zach Moss, I mean, in my opinion, is a downgrade from Joe Mixon, and we don't really know what kind of version of T. Higgins you're going to get this year because he's playing under the franchise tag. He's is he going to give 100%? Is he going to try to hold back to avoid injury? So that kind of battle back and forth for that one. So I kind of left him off my top five.
Yeah, Zach Moss definitely. I'm inclined to agree with you on that one. I don't. Once Joe Mixon left over to the Texans, it's almost like it was all right. If you're the Bengals, who do we replace? And I think Zach Moss was perhaps a most available option that they had. But I agree with you. I don't see Zach Moss as an upgrade for Joe Mixon. It's almost like, okay, we got Zach Moss, and that's about it. Really, there's really no other explanation on that one.
He had a great year last year, but Indy has one of the better offensive lines in the league. Like he has a couple of pros in that offensive line, so it helped open up some running holes for him. So gave him a career year basically, especially with Jonathan Taylor missing a good chunk of the season. And Cincy's line is not great, hasn't been great for quite a
Mhm.
while. So we'll be interesting to see how that works out.
Do you see regression going into Zach Moss? If obviously if that line is still about the same with Incincy?
Yeah, I don't see him putting up the same numbers he did behind that Indy line. Like I said, they have one of the better lines in the league, and I don't see him putting that kind of production. And again, if Burrow goes down, I don't see him being able to carry the load like that. With 8, 9 man boxes.
Yeah, no, 100%. It wouldn't be the same as like when Joe Mixon carried the load for Cincy once Joe Burrow went down. Obviously, barring injury, right? If you have a healthy Joe Burrow, and maybe Zach Moss can at least alleviate some of that pressure that goes into Joe Burrow, obviously, and an already troubling offensive line. So hope at this point it's like, okay, maybe maybe we'll see what was Zach Moss really just a product of the Indianapolis Colts is a much upgraded offensive line, or is Zach Moss really the real deal and can actually contribute to that Cincinnati Bengals offense? All right, so I'm gonna move over on mine for the for number 5. I'm gonna choose. I chose the Rams, the LA Rams for number 5. Yeah, I was looking at some lists. Some lists had them at 8. Some lists had them at 3. It was kind of like all over. It was like a little bit of the extremes. They weren't obviously at number 1 or anything, but uh,
Yeah,
to me, I was like, to me, the median on that one for me would be the Rams at number 5. And reason why I chose the Rams at number 5, Puka Nakua is just has been pretty good. I expect as long as Puka can continue to do what he did in his rookie season, and how effective, and then it also depends on if Cooper Cup and Puka Nakua are at their top of their game, and obviously Cooper can be when he's healthy, of course. um I think Nakua was he set some records last season as well, so I think with that one, hopefully with a healthy Cooper Cup and Nakua putting up the numbers that he was, I think they can have a pretty good receiving unit. So I'm gonna put the Rams there at 5 for that reason. Where do you think, Rios?
it's a little high for me, but I can see the reason behind it. I think with them, it's really gonna come down to like still got some question marks to the tight end position and
Yeah.
running back. We'll see, if Kyron Williams can, put up the same numbers he did a year ago.
Right.
Because he was a big unknown coming into the season. And like as we've seen with all these running backs that, basically are, come out of nowhere, a lot of them do have a regression in year 2. So we'll see if they can
Yep.
continue that level of production. But
Definitely.
I think Nakua's numbers probably drop a little bit with Cooper Cup out there because Stafford and him have that connection, and he's
Yeah.
going to look for him, more often than not. So we'll see.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, let's head into our number 4. So I'll kick off number 4, then you let me know what yours is. Okay, we'll just kind of do it like fantasy football, where we do kind of the snake thing over here. So at number 4, I had the Philadelphia Eagles on mine. So I think I just read in one higher than you did, Rios, on that one. So for basically all the reasons that you said there, Rios, Philadelphia Eagles, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, form one of the top wide receiver duos in the NFL. In the last 2 years, Brown, I think AJ Brown has had like a rating of like 91.2 when being graded, and I think Smith was like at 81.7. So that's a pretty good rating for those receivers. And of course, like you mentioned earlier, Dallas Goedert is also a factor. Now, obviously, he wasn't rated as high as AJ Brown or Devonta Smith, but he still held his own. I mean, I think he had a PFF rating of 78.2 in receiving, and 6 touchdowns since 2022. And then, like you said, with the acquisition of Saquon Barkley during the offseason, I mean, it just kind of adds on to that. But also, one point that you brought up earlier when you were talking about the Eagles, it also depends. Well, they have that on paper. It also depends on Jalen Hurts' production. Will Jalen Hurts' production be what it was when he went to the Super Bowl, or was it a little bit stagnant, kind of like last year? I mean, he still did pretty decent, but it wasn't the same as the previous season. When the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. So it all depends on what version of Jalen Hurts the Eagles are going to see. But I mean, to me, I felt like I rated them at 4 just for that reason, but and I saw some also some lists when I was researching this. They had them like at number at number like some were like at 2, some of them were like at 6 when I was looking at a top 10 list. So it was a little bit almost like when I saw the Rams too, but obviously they had uh the Eagles higher than what they did with the Rams. But yeah, I think you brought up all those points already, Reels. That the once the Philadelphia Eagles, depending on Jalen Hurts, really, it's gonna depend on what their production is and can't. But they have the potential there, right? They have the potential of they could be really good. That receiving core is pretty decent, but what version of Jalen Brown or excuse me, Jalen Hurts are they going to see?
Yeah, it's really he's got to elevate his passing game because we know he's going to get those, inside the one. It's pretty much a lock as far as rushing touchdowns. But he's really have to improve his numbers between the 20s as far as passing the ball. If he can
Yeah.
take that next step, I think he can reach like a possibly an MVP level season with just the weapons he has on offense.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing as a Houstonian, we definitely like to see Jalen Hurts get up there. H-Town, baby. And so yeah, 100%. So all right, Rios, what do you your turn now. Who do you have at 4?
So for me at number 4, I'm gonna go with the Chicago Bears.
Ah.
So a lot of people, like yourself, I looked at a couple of lists as well, just to get a general idea what most people have in their
Mhm.
consensus top 5, top 10, whatnot. But with them, most people have them pretty highly ranked, and I'm
I
not going to
do.
rank them that high, like a 2 or 3, just because. Again, the biggest question mark in the room is going to be Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
It's coming with the hype, but hype doesn't always equal production. So we've got to see what he's able to do. Once he puts the pads on and is facing live game action at the NFL level. But on paper, they do have a pretty dangerous offense because you've got,
Mhm.
with the addition of Keenan Allen next to DJ Moore, you've got 2 guys that are potential 1,000-yard receivers. You got Cole Kmet at the tight end position, which is if you play fantasy football, you'll have games where he'll be like the best tight ends in the league, and then
Yeah.
doing cardio. And then with the acquisition of DeAndre Swift, I think on paper they should have a pretty stacked offense. But again, it's all really going to come down to Caleb Williams and his progression throughout the season.
Yeah. You know what? What's funny is that you said the Chicago Bears. And now that I look at my list, I'm thinking I should have put the Bears instead of the Rams on there. I really should have. Um, so if I could take that back, I already said it. I'm gonna stick to it. But if I could take that one back, I would say Chicago. I didn't put them in my top 5, and the reason why I didn't put them in there was because I don't know what we're gonna get from Caleb Williams.
I mean, that's fair.
And that's the only reason why I didn't put him up there. And because don't get me wrong, like I think that I don't want to say because I don't want to take anything away from Caleb from his accomplishments in college, but it feels like he's getting a little bit overhyped at some point.
You can compare it to Patrick Mahomes coming out of college. Like
Mhm.
if he was doing this in the SEC, okay, I can somewhat
Right? Yeah.
but you're doing this in the Pac-12 with not a great conference,
Mhm.
and you
Yeah.
struggle against ranked opponents. It's like people need
Yeah.
to breaks a little bit in the expectations. Like
Yeah.
there's
No,
something
I agree.
that's annoying them.
Yeah, no, exactly, 100%. It's like, yeah, if you were doing this like you said in the SEC and basically the conference that is as close to the NFL than any other really at that level, yeah, I could definitely see I could buy in more into the hype, I guess. And again, I'm not taking anything away from Caleb Williams at all whatsoever, but I do feel like he is filled with hype at this point, because he was the number 1 overall pick, but he was playing for USC, and so it's USC as a whole. I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, I see your point. So, and that's the only reason why, dude. Like honestly, it was because I just don't. I haven't seen an unproven. I haven't seen a proven Caleb Williams yet, and I mean, yes. They did surround him with DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Roma Dunse as well.
Yeah,
I hope I
forgot
pronounced it
about him
correct.
too.
Yeah, Cole Kmet, and I think they also have Gerald Everett. I think you mentioned him. So he has options. He has options, and then of course, with the acquisition of DeAndre Swift, like you said, as a pass catching threat at running back as well. So he does have the options, and it's very kind of similar to the CJ Stroud situation, except CJ, when CJ Stroud started, uh, the receiver group. I remember the talk was the receiver group. They didn't know what they were going to get with the receiver group.
Worst in the league was the
Right.
ranking PFF, number 32.
Correct.
They were going to struggle. Stroud was going to struggle. I kept all
Right.
seats, and yeah, and it's funny. People try to repaint history like, oh, he walked into a great situation. No, he didn't.
Hmm.
A
Yeah.
lot he was tested. Like you saw, everyone saw what he did against Georgia. That's an NFL level defense.
Correct. In SEC is in SEC, right? Yeah, it was an SEC team. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, NFL elite defense. I mean, a lot of that defense went to the NFL
In the first round.
first round too.
A lot of first rounders on that team.
Yeah, 100
The
exactly.
difference between lighting a team up like that versus struggling against teams in the Pac-12. Like,
Yeah, and so that
there's
yeah
levels.
that sorry, go ahead, Riz. Sorry.
I was like, there's levels to it, and yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I don't buy in just yet to the Caleb Williams thing. And again, I'm not critiquing the guy, not trying to take anything from it. That's the only reason why I didn't pick the Bears, because I don't know what version of Caleb Williams you're going to get. If you get the college version of Caleb Williams and the system clicks, well, is that a Mexican Coke?
Mm-hmm.
Míralo. What did you get? Did you get tacos with that too?
I did actually.
What'd you get? Barbacoa, carnitas.
Carnitas.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. No, that's cool. That was my ADD just went straight to the
Right.
Mexican Coke. Yeah.
Might be my last warm meal for a while.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. No, but back to that. That's 100%. It's just I don't know what we're gonna get from Caleb Williams this upcoming season, but all the best of luck to the young man stepping in, and hopefully it works out for him, because I would like to see a great matchup with the Texans versus the Chicago Bears. I think that would be a great matchup if he's able to pick up the offensive scheme as well as CJ Stroud did this past season.
Not just that, you can't have Jay Cutler being the best quarterback in Bears franchise history. Like,
Yeah,
someone has to take that mantle, because man,
please.
that's sad.
Yeah, no, exactly. All right, so this was, I think we're at 4, right? You said
Yeah.
Chicago Bears. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's 3.
Okay. So to go back to the snake effect, Rios, give me your 3.
So at 3, I have the Miami Dolphins.
Okay.
So you got one of the best receivers in the league in Tyreek Hill. I mean, guy's basically unguardable. And then you have Jalen Waddle, who would be a number 1 on most teams. Tight end is, but the running back group makes up for it with Mostert and Devon Shane. Like, that's just an explosive. That's like a NASCAR offense, basically. They're going to be tough to stop it, but a lot of that really is going to come down to Tua.
Mm-hmm.
If he can continue to elevate his game as a passer, they should be a dangerous team in the AFC. But as we've seen, man, those injuries, they've been catching up to him. The injuries, the inconsistency. So, but even still, like, if they're going to lean a little bit more on the running game and get more consistency from that group, it should be a fun team to watch this year.
Agreed. Coincidentally, I also have the Miami Dolphins at 3. Yeah, there you go. We agreed. We came close to that one. So yeah, Miami Dolphins at 3 for me. For that reason, I mean, last season they were ranked, I think, second to the 49ers in the receiving in the receiving grade, at least that PFF gave them. I think it was like 85.7. You mentioned wide receivers Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. They make up a huge part of that offense. I think Hill was one of the top grades last season that PFF gave him was like 94, and Waddle was like a 90.6. So then you got Joanna Smith, who, I mean, he's there, but he's there, and he can have, depending on the type of game. But like you said, with Raheem Mostert and Devon, what was, I'm sorry, I mispronounced the last name. Acne, Achane? What is it? Achane, yeah. I think Shane earned a 77.1 receiving grade last season from PFF, and I mean, that's a running back. So obviously he's a dual threat. He's a running back, and of course he's able to catch the ball. And then obviously the type of system here is the Shanahan system. And I think that's one of the reasons that also put the Rams in there at 5 is because of that Shanahan system as well, and I mean, it's a great system. I think that's why another reason why I put them up there. But going back to the Dolphins, they use that same type of system. You have a running back that can catch the ball, that can be a threat not just in the running, but also option him off as a receiver. Maybe some checkdowns along the way as well. Like that is helpful to any quarterback. So, at which point, you brought it up earlier. It depends what version of Tua. It's almost like we're talking about Jalen Hurts. What version of Jalen Hurts or what version of Tua they're going to get this season. It really is going to depend on the quarterback, but on paper, I think we're going to keep saying that as we go up to move to number one. On paper, they seem legit. They seem like a team that can be a threat. I mean, when I can't remember off the top of my head. Do the Texans face the Miami Dolphins this season? I don't think they do, right?
No, no,
No,
no,
I
no.
don't think so.
No,
No,
yes, they do. Yes, they do.
they
Because
do. Okay,
they played the AFC East this year.
that's correct. Okay, so
They played them towards like the end of the season, I believe.
yes, they do. Believe they're gonna. Yeah, they're playing in December. Yeah, so they still December 15th. Yeah, so they'll be playing. They'll be facing the Dolphins. So again, that's a system. It's they use the same Shanahan system. So it should be an interesting game to watch. And seeing how that system plays out or whatnot. But honestly, yeah, I could see the Dolphins being one of the top teams in the AFC. Excuse me. If and I mean, I see the Dolphins taking that division to begin with the AFC East this season, and they should. Again, on paper, right? So honestly, yeah, I could see them as a top team in the AFC. So I wouldn't count them out again as long as Tua does what he needs to do, and barring injury, I don't see why the Dolphins aren't a top team. They're a force to be reckoned with and not to be taken lightly.
And it feels weird saying that about Tua because he had like 4,600 yards passing, but a lot of that
Yeah.
was just empty stats against bad teams. Like
Right.
again, to facing the better defenses in the league, kind of struggled a little bit.
Mhm.
And Tyreek did slow down with injuries towards the end of the season as well because he was on pace for 2,000 yards. But
Yeah.
there was a lot of games where they were just blowing the bad teams out, and he was
Mhm.
sitting in the fourth quarter, so he couldn't hit that mark. But I don't see him doing that this year. But he should have another All Pro season.
Yeah. No, 100%. So I'm glad that we both kind of agreed on the on the number 3 spot there. All right. I'll start off with my number. So all right, you already went. Yeah, you did this. Okay, so I'll do my number 2. Okay, yeah. And then yeah, okay, number 2. For me, my number 2, this one was a little tough because this is not biased at all, but I put the Houston Texans at 2.
Okay.
Uh but it was in between 2 and 1, and here's why. And again, this wasn't based on biases or not, it's just based on the type of at the receiving corp. Um at number 2, I put the Texans because uh I feel like we talk about it often, but it's true. Like the Texans last season, they had, Tank Dell and Nico Collins, who, Nico Collins was coming off of a season where he wasn't where he wasn't productive, and there were even questions about him being traded, not being traded, but like maybe not signing anything with the Texans for year 3, um, because of production. And then Tank Dell, yeah, he did wonderful for the University of Houston, but again, it's like a wait and see how somebody from college adapts to the league, and I felt like he adapted almost immediately to the league. And then you had guys like Robert Woods, Noah Brown that kind of got thrown into the mix there as well. That honestly, guys like Noah Brown, I mean, he had almost 500 yards on him. Tank Dell was on the verge of getting over about 1,000 or even over, but he got injured. And then you had Nico Collins, who was 3 yards shy of hitting that 1,300 yard mark. So that tells you that you could potentially have had more than one receiver more than one receiver hitting the 1,000 yard mark that could have possibly happened bar an injury. And then you had a third receiver who was halfway there with Noah Brown. And then not only that, you had Dalton Schultz along in the mix as well, who who did some damage as well. So now, coming into 2024 season, not only do you have those same that same receiving core that I just mentioned, now you're going to add a Pro Bowler in Stephon Diggs in the mix, and you're adding Joe Mixon as well in there. So now you've added more weapons for CJ to be able to, win some games. So, and then of course they drafted a tight end who CJ Stroud is familiar with, and Cade Stover, who could potentially be Dalton Schultz's replacement, uh, as whenever Dalton Schultz's contract is out, or might even outplay him. You never know how the cards may be dealt. But at this point, that is a top receiving core group of guys that could potentially, and some people they could be at number one. I saw different lists where they did have that team at where they did have the Texans at number one. There were videos on YouTube that had the Texans at number one. And so for me, the only reason why I didn't put the Texans at number one is because, you know, um, I I wasn't sure how. And don't get me wrong, Joe Mixon has been proven. And how do you call it? I don't know what we're gonna get with Kate Stover. And it just depends how Joe Mixon in the running back position fits into the system. On paper they look great. I believe CJ Stroud coming into year two won't have a regression like some people have said. So for that reason, I've ranked the Texans that high because overall on paper they look phenomenal. They look like a contender. They look like they can take on anybody in the league. And so for that reason, I'm going to put the Texans at 2.
Okay.
Rios, go for it.
Well, I'm going in the opposite direction. I'm going the 49ers number 2 for somewhat similar reasons. On paper, basically the 49ers have the better running back. And McCaffrey's the best running back in the league, so he's obviously better than Joe Mixon. Mm-hmm. Tight end, honestly, as a football player, your best skill set is availability. George Kittle has missed a lot of time over the last few years, and unfortunately, I don't see that changing this year.
Okay, fair.
And then I think CJ Stroud's a better quarterback than Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy's elevated by the guys around them versus CJ elevating the guys around them. And you're also not really sure what version of Ayuk you're going to get because that's a messy contract situation. Mm-hmm. And they'll tell him he's going to be there week one. There's still a chance he'll get traded. And even if he does stay, I mean, it's not going to be happy. You're not sure, how he's going to, might sit out some games, might not give 100% effort. Debo's been getting hurt more and more as the years progress. And he's also one of those guys that might be, traded by 2025. So again, you're not really sure how this team's going to look, week one or, going into the 2025. And again, they've had a lot of injuries. And even with all that, like I said, it's the Kyle Shanahan offense. They're still going to put up numbers because you got Christian McCaffrey. He makes up for that. He was essentially their offense in the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. He was their leading receiver, leading rusher. And he's probably going to carry the workload again this year because, again, if they say they traded Brandon Ayuk, can't really depend on Debo to be your number one. And then, they drafted that Presto kid out of college, but it's a rookie. You're not really sure what you can get out of him because we haven't seen him at the NFL level yet. And Kittle, as long as he's healthy, again, he's one of the better tight ends in the NFL, but I just haven't seen it. Like anyone who's played fantasy football knows you can count George Kittle to miss at least 3 or 4 games a year.
No, you bring up great points, and that's what I struggled with when I was making my list. Spoiler alert, I think you already know who my number one is.
Yes.
And so, and for that, because I thought that if Brendan Ayuk gets signed back with the 49ers, I make them a number one. But obviously, if he's not, I don't even think they're in the top 5 list at that point. If Brendan Ayuk there, because Brendan Ayuk to me makes that team, elevates that team a lot more. You did mention that Debo Samuel has been getting injured a lot more, and then with George Kittle's a little bit of inconsistency also kind of makes it a little difficult. But I think one of the reasons why I elevated the 49ers over the Texans on that one is based on I guess the experience that they have with that offense. And then I think Brock Purdy gets a little bit better this season. Do I think Brock Purdy is a better quarterback than CJ Stroud? I do not think that. I think CJ Stroud is a much better quarterback. So honestly, it was really much of a toss up for me on that one. A lot of people did have 49ers at the top of that list, and I understand why. And I think again, as long as that core group stays together, I can see them as a true number one team. If they stay healthy, 100%, they're a top team. So I think that's why I put them at one as well. Um, so Rios, who did you put at one?
So at number one, I had Houston for again, nothing biased, but again, looking at the positions, skill by skill. Stephon Diggs is better receiver than anyone on the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
Nico's better than Ayuk. And I wouldn't call Tank Dell number 3 receiver, but he's better than whoever they have in number 3. And Dalton Schultz, for the most part, remains pretty healthy. So again, availability is one of the best skill sets you can have as an NFL player. So I would put him slightly above Kittle because if Kittle's fully healthy, obviously I would pick Kittle, but we haven't seen that in a few years now. Running back, obviously, then I'll go to the 49ers, but then it all comes down to who the quarterback is. And
Mm-hmm.
I think Stroud's going to put better numbers than Purdy.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I can see CJ Stroud putting on bigger numbers than Purdy. Obviously, I think with the run, if you're comparing the two teams, I think that the that the 49ers have the better running back in Christian McCaffrey. Again, I think the 49ers, if they stay healthy, it's a solid team. But again, it's all about all of this list that we made on paper. They look, that's why we chose it, because on paper. But again, if one piece falls off, I think it kind of changes the dynamic and the rating on it. But so just to recap, Rios, you had number 5 the Eagles, number 4 the Bears, number 3 Miami, number 2 the 49ers, and number 1 the Houston Texans as your top 5 NFL receiving corps, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and for me it was the Rams at 5, Eagles at 4, Miami at 3, the Texans at 2, and the 49ers at 1. I think for me, my list I think had I think 4 out of those 5 are all in the same Shanahan system. Then yeah, and so I see why you chose Chicago though. I think Chicago's going to surprise a lot of people this season.
I was trying to put them at 5 or 4, but I think just with they have they're more of an unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really wanted to put them at 5 and put the Eagles at 4. I was like, you know what? No, let me switch it up a little bit because again, with the Roma Dunze, I think he's better than the third receiver for the Eagles. And Cole Kmet, I mean, if you can get a receiver, if he can get a quarterback that throws him the ball, he's going to be a dangerous tight end because he's shown he can. He showed he can play, but Justin Fields wasn't the most accurate quarterback. Then the Bears, threw it under 20 times most of the season, so it's a lot of question marks. But I think on paper, like they should be a pretty fun team to watch.
Yeah, agreed. All right, I guess that's gonna wrap up our show for today. But hey, for those of you guys who listen to the whole thing, give us your top 5 wide receiving core. I'm sorry, not wide receiving core. To your top 5 receiving core going into the 2024 NFL season. Just let us know why. We'd like to hear what your thoughts were. Why you chose your list. So you heard ours. We want to hear yours. So that's going to be it for us this week. Tune in to us next week. And that should be it. But before you do, please follow. Follow us at or subscribe to our channel first at B Blitz Pod. And of course, follow our X account at B Blitz Pod as well. Don't forget, we are part of the Our Esquina Podcast Network. Follow them on their Instagram account, as it says right there below, at Our Esquina. And of course, you can follow the X account as well for Our Esquina, just like it says there at the bottom, at Our Esquina. And of course, don't forget, if you're a Houston Astros fan, please follow the guys at the Full Seam Ahead podcast. They provide you top tier quality Astros content, also MLB content as well, and give you lots of stats, lots of numbers, and they're really good at what they do. But that's going to be it for us this week. Uh, Please stay safe if you're in the Houston area or anywhere where this storm is going to be, or the anywhere if you're anywhere in the path of the storm, stay safe. Bring your pets inside, all that wonderful stuff, and take care of yourself. That's going to be it for us this week. Rios, you got anything else, or is that it for you, man?
No, hopefully we're here next week.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully, there's not any power outages or whatnot, and let's just get through the storm, and that's going to be it. All right, man. That's going to be it for us this week. See y'all next time. Peace.